Welcome, everybody, to the Week 8 NFL Sunday Night Showdown breakdown here on Sharp Sports Network. I'm your host, Joe Bewer, and I'm going to be breaking down my favorite plays on this showdown slate between the Philadelphia Eagles, who are at the Dallas Cowboys. Before we get into that, I do want to mention that if you leave a comment down below with your favorite play, you'll be entered in to win a free season pass over here on Sharp Sports Network. You'll have the option to choose between NFL and NBA. So leave a comment down below. Show some love. Been really appreciating the support over here on Sharp Sports Network. So before we get into this, I do want to give a quick shout out to our website here, sharpsportsnetwork.com. We have a big apparel line here ranging from some NBA designs all the way to some NFL and MLB designs that we still have in stock, as well as our signature tees for our company logo. So if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and check some of that out. Copying some merch, it really would appreciate that. It really helps out the brand. So what everybody's waiting for here, let's jump into this breakdown here. We have an intense slate here between the Eagles and the Cowboys. The Eagles are just treacherous at defending the pass. They are one of three teams to have consistently given up over 200 receiving yards per game throughout the entire year. They give up 1.8 touchdowns per game. They are third in the league in defending slot receivers. So there's a lot of edge to be had on the Dallas side that we can really take advantage of. The Dallas side, secondary, is a little banged up right now, as well as their offense. So we're really going to be able to attack some of the Philly players here that have had some very interesting games against Dallas in the past. Amari Cooper is not 100% right now. I assume that he plays as well as Randall Cobb, but I assume that both of them are very cautious with how much they actually play, which leaves a lot of room for some other players to really shine here today. I think this is a showdown slate where you should be getting both quarterbacks into the lineup here, so you're going to have to buy low on a captain, especially in GPPs, because the spread is only at 3, favoring the Cowboys. Over-unders at around 49, so this is expected to be a shootout. Just some narratives from last year. Amari Cooper torched the Eagles last year for 217 yards and a touchdown. Zach Ertz torched them for 10 catches, 127 yards, and 2 touchdowns last year. Not to mention that Philadelphia let Sam Darnold run all over them last week, or Dallas let Sam Darnold run all over them last week for 340 yards, a couple touchdowns. They did lose to the Jets. So I really want to very precisely pick and choose who we're going to target here. It makes a lot of sense to try and get both quarterbacks in. Not in captain. I don't think this is a game where you captain a quarterback, especially in DraftKings. There's not much that you're going to be able to really take advantage of. A few pieces that I do like, and I am a big fan of captaining Zach Ertz here on this slate. Zach Ertz, his targets have been increasing. It's been Carson Wentz's favorite guy for the longest time. He's had 9 targets, 8, 7. He gets the targets. And the narrative for Dallas here is just, he had 16 targets in week 2. He's had good showings. So buying low on a 12K Zach Ertz based on everybody else is actually pretty interesting here. So I really think that Zach Ertz is a very, very top option here. For me, I think I'm going to be fading Ezekiel Elliott on the slate. Seems like a lot of people are trying to fade Ezekiel Elliott as well. If Amari Cooper was to sit, Ezekiel Elliott becomes a lock because they run 41% of their offense through Ezekiel Elliott when Amari Cooper is off the field. So I think that Zeke, especially that Philadelphia is 3rd in the league in limiting opponent rushes. I think that Zeke is only going to find his success in the checkdown game, which Dak might be looking up the field a little bit more to my favorite Dallas wide receiver being Michael Gallup on the slate. Michael Gallup is bound to have a breakout performance here soon. The targets have been through the roof this year so far. He's missed a few games with an injury to the knee, but I think this is a slate where he really breaks the slate. I think Michael Gallup is in a prime position to really open things up here. So we have 7.1K left, and if you put in both flex positions with the quarterbacks, you would be able to get both kickers in, and you would be able to that would be a lineup right there. You would have 600 left. I think you have to play Dak and Wentz here. For me, just running backs aren't in play. But the only other wide receiver I would even consider is Alshon Jeffrey here, who I think is also a great play. I think he's been getting an incredible amount of targets as well. I just think the target share on the Eagles is so much more condensed compared to the actual target share of the Cowboys. It's very spread out. Randall Cobb, they have a bunch of weapons. Dallas is strictly Alshon Jeffrey and Zach Ertz, and maybe a little bit of Miles Sanders here. we just head over to NFL Savant, you'll see the target share. Zach Ertz leads the team in targets, 55 targets through the first few weeks. Plays 24.2% of the target share. It's what he receives. Nelson Aguilar is second, then Alshon Jeffrey third. Red zone targets, same thing, Zach Ertz. Cash game, Zach Ertz is just a safe play. Now, I don't normally recommend having a tight end in the captain spot because 71% of the lineups are won by wide receivers or running backs in the captain spot, but Zach Ertz is pretty much a wide receiver. Jordan Howard has pretty much received the majority of the rushes throughout the year. He's kind of taken over the past few weeks, but I'm not really attacking Jordan Howard this week. So for me, it's going to be between Zach Ertz and Alshon Jeffrey here. As far as target share on Philadelphia, I think that's where you have to kind of go. Zach Ertz's price for me is a little abysmal. I think it's kind of gross that he's only 8K flex and 12K at captain. I think that a bunch of the pricing here in the captain spot is just really, it's kind of broken. So over on the Dallas side, like I said, I love Michael Gallup here. If we just go ahead and look, Amari Cooper has led, but he's a little banged up. Michael Gallup is just behind. Jason Witten as well, viable option. But the red zone targets is where Jason Witten kind of receives a majority of his target share. He's a red zone guy, but they have just been hammering Ezekiel Elliott in the run game lately in the red zone. They're just not passing. Ezekiel Elliott, 28 red zone rushes. He's the focal leader of this offense, but I just think that with Philadelphia Eagles, how they limited the run last few weeks is just it just doesn't make any sense to pay 11K for Zeke. Even in the captain spot, it still doesn't make any sense either. I think Zeke they have not let a rusher rush over 78 yards. They're averaging 78 yards to the opposing rush per game. It's the third lowest in the league. So for me, I think that this is a core right here for cash games that really makes sense. Carson Wentz is starting to heat up. Dak Prescott has been averaging 21 fantasy points per game. Carson Wentz is starting to increase 16.5 fantasy points per game. So I really think that getting both of these quarterbacks in really just provides a very solid stack that's needed. And then, like I said, these wide receivers are just a little underpriced. You could pull out Michael Gallup and you could place Amari Cooper and you would still be able to get both kickers in. You should have no issue there. So you could go Amari Cooper and you could get both kickers in. And that would be a lineup right there, which is solid because these kickers have been absolutely putting in work lately. Jake Elliott had a phenomenal game last game against Minnesota. Brett Maher, same deal. They've been just putting in these work because unfortunately, Dallas is just having a tough time finding the end zone lately. So on DraftKings, I think the play is Zach Ertz at captain in cash games. In GPP, I would say Michael Gallup could be an option in GPP or Alshon Jeffrey. Either one of those make a lot of sense. The only thing Jason Witten doesn't make any sense at captain. Aguilar kind of makes sense, but he's a slate-breaking guy. He's not going to be consistent. Just the targets last week alone for Nelson Aguilar, 7 targets, but he only caught 4 passes. Nothing crazy. He's been kind of blanked the past 3 weeks since Alshon Jeffrey came back from injury. So let's head on over to FanDuel where things are a little different here. MVP is a little different. Prices don't change. You have a lot of interesting pricing here on a lot of these players. I think a lot of players are in play over here on FanDuel. I still think you need to play both quarterbacks. I think that's definitely viable here. For me, like I said, I still like Ertz. I still like both of these guys here. Leaves you with 9K left. I think you have to buy low here on a Jason Witten just to be able to get up to somebody like Jordan Howard, something like that. If you didn't want to buy low on him, you can. The only other player I would recommend is Randall Cobb. You buy low on Randall Cobb. You are able to get up to Zach Ertz or somebody like Jordan Howard if you wanted to play. But for me, I'm not a fan. I'm going to buy low here on somebody like Dallas Goedert, who's been playing 71% of the snaps the past 3 weeks. Hasn't really translated into fantasy points, but the targets are there. 8 targets last game against Minnesota. I think Dallas Goedert could be plugged in as well. It's just really hard to get up to some of these wide receivers, so you're going to really have to pick. If you go Michael Gallup here, you're left with 6.5K. You're really buying low on somebody like Matt Collins or Tony Gollard, which is just not something that I want. But I think your core has to involve these 3 guys here. I just think Zach Ertz, this is a blow-up game. The narrative, he's always played well in Dallas, especially at Dallas. Carson Wentz has been heating up lately, and Dak has plays well at home as well. It's really hard to kind of diversify the lineup here with all these guys are kind of high-priced. But on FanDuel, I think I would still lock Ertz in at captain. For me, it just makes a lot of sense. I can't roster Amari Cooper yet. I'm not too confident in him. He's questionable, but I think he'll play. He's a limited participant in practice on Friday. He's only played 3 snaps in the week lost to the Jets with a bruised quad. I expect he plays tonight, just not as much as we think. That's why Michael Gallup becomes my favorite wide receiver. But fitting him in really limits you in this lower area here. If it was to be anybody, it would be Matt Collins. He at least received some target share. He received plenty in week 1 and 2, so you know that it's there. You could go with J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. He's definitely received the targets, but it's such an interesting area to go. I mean, this would obviously be an ideal core on FanDuel, but it works better on DraftKings with the pricing of the kickers being so low. But the pricing of kickers is $9K here on FanDuel. So for me, this would be probably my core. I do like Zach Ertz the most out of any of the wide receivers and tight ends. I think this is a week where he really just shows out and he just receives plenty of targets. So with that being said, appreciate everybody listening to this breakdown. I hope you guys cash out. And if you are a member, stay tuned to the website. I will be dropping the private roster construction video here very soon, as well as the cheat sheet. So stay tuned for that. With that being said, appreciate all the support on the website, and we will see you tomorrow for the Monday Night Breakdown over here on Sharp Sports Network. Peace.